After a season that saw the Seattle Mariners fall just short of their first World Series appearance, the M's begin the 2026 season filled with confidence, joy, and optimism. After hijacking the Press Box podcast studios from regular host Dave Nichols, local broadcast legends Dennis Patchin, Rick Lukens, and Bud Nameck sit down to examine the season ahead and whether the M's can finally break through.
Play ball, baby. The Spokesman-Review Press Box Sportscast brought to you today by Nameck, Patchin, and Lukens. And Dave Nichols, we said, yeah, we got this, Dave. Yeah, we're good. So I'm Rick.
He deserves a vacation.
Does he know we pushed him out the door?
I didn't know we pushed him out the door, but I'm Rick Lukens.
Hey, I'm Bud Nameck.
I'm Dennis Patchin.
And we're going to talk some baseball, I've been waiting since the Game 7 of the American League Championship Series to do this. So I'm jacked, baby.
Really? You didn't at least take one day off?
No. Oh, yeah. One day of like, what am I going to do now?
And let's set the record straight. Rick is the diehard Mariner fan of this group.
100%.
I grew up in the Bay Area, wearing a Giants jersey,
Yeah.
but covered the Mariners forever, so you root for teams you cover.
Right.
Dennis is kind of in the same boat. You grew up a Giants fan,
Yeah,
right?
I'm between you two, I think. And you're right. You cover a team for 40 years, you root for them to win.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, winning teams are easier to cover than losing teams.
And they're more fun to cover.
Yes,
yes.
correct.
I mean,
Correct.
you don't get the grouchiness that you get with. But I grew up actually before there were Mariners. I was a Cincinnati Reds fan because that's who I got on TV in Seattle. I mean, it seemed
They
like
were
the
dominant in our childhood too. The Big Red Machine.
Yeah, I mean, my youth is filled with a shot from behind home plate and just seeing the name Bench, and as a catcher. So I was a big fan of the Big Red Machine.
So you grew up in Seattle.
Yeah.
You're 11 or 12 years old when the Pilots come to town.
Yeah,
That nothing?
that didn't really resonate with me very much. I learned the song, Go, Go, You Pilots, You Proud Seattle Team.
You told me there'd be no singing on
But
the podcast today.
but there was no time to really grab a hold. I became more knowledgeable of the Pilots and all of that and who was on the team kind of when I read Ball 4 by Jim Bouton. Yeah. Seriously.
How old were you when you read Ball 4? When did it come out?
15. I was about 15.
Came out in 71?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't supposed to read it, but I
wasn't
did.
Well, I had a couple
read
of
it
words.
when it came out.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like,
yeah. It was like,
there's the
seriously?
It's the first
Yeah.
time
Those
I
things
heard
can
some of
happen?
those words.
Yeah, I was about 15. I was in junior high school
Okay.
when I read it. Yeah, and loved it. Yeah, just loved it.
Here are some of the things Jim Bouton wrote about in that book that you idolize these major league players and just you're like, really? No way. It's like when seeing Gaylord Perry smoking in the dugout in the Giants. and then I'm at Candlestick watching the Giants play. Gaylord Perry's pitching. We land on the moon. PA guy goes, ladies and gentlemen, we have an announcement. The U.S. has just landed on the moon. Everyone's, you hear all this. Please, a moment of silence for their safe return. Gaylord Perry takes off his hat. He's bald.
He's bald.
He's just got the tiger. And I was like, oh my, that's like two revelations. But the great story, and we later had Gaylord on the talk show, and he told this story before he wrote his book about it. But Alvin Dark had talked about Gaylord Perry, saying, the day Gaylord hits a home run, there'll be a man on the moon. Gaylord Perry hit a home run.
Oh, isn't that
Amazing?
Isn't that a great story? Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So I went into mourning the day after the Mariners got eliminated from the moment the Mariners Julio struck out and the Mariners were eliminated in Game 7 of the ALCS, and just been so stoked for today. I've actually been stoked for today as a Mariner fan, going back to about somewhere after they started the rebuild. Or as Jerry DiPoto called it, the step back. No, the step back in 2018. So this is the 8th season since the step back. But it was about 3-4 seasons into that you could see what was happening. I could see what was happening. There were so many. If anybody who follows me on social media knows that I basically went into attack mode at some point when people were saying, oh yeah, the Mariners doing it again. The Mariners suck again. And I was like, no, man, this is a good team. And they're going to make the playoffs this season or next. And it turned out it was next. But I had people laughing at me, calling me an idiot. And you could see what he was doing.
Just normal things then, right?
No, it was a normal Wednesday. Yeah, no, but with the step back, it has taken too long. But so many people wanted as a step back. Okay, we're going to get rid of all these guys and we're going to rebuild. And they wanted them to get every high price free agent on the market when they came out. But the Mariners didn't go after Tatis, and they didn't go after this guy, and they didn't go after that guy.
They couldn't afford to.
Well,
the budget wasn't there.
Exactly. But what you saw was that Dipoto was also building a sustainable roster, not only major league roster, but organizational roster.
What they've done is tried to put money into the Cal Raleighs. I think Gilbert got the contract as well.
I don't think he's gotten it yet. But
Kirby, one of the pitchers did.
Julio.
Yeah, Julio.
Julio
Yeah.
got Luis Castillo after they went traded for him. They signed him to a long term.
You see the Seahawks doing the same thing.
Right.
They're signing JSN to the long term,
Yeah.
getting the tackles locked in.
They also
same thing.
know what they have in those guys.
Yeah.
When they sign. Now, it also the players have to decide that they want to come back to Seattle. I'll be interested to see what happens with Logan Gilbert. If he decides to go out and just see if he can get as much money as he possibly can.
And
I think he's the one guy that may step away from this organization.
that's a little bit of a litmus test. I agree. But with the pitching staff they have, are they going to be as aggressive on Logan Gilbert in signing him for X amount of dollars as they were in saying getting Cal Raleigh signed, or as they were in getting Julio Rodriguez signed?
No.
They're not going to be. But
we've learned that they can identify pitching through the major league draft,
my gosh,
the amateur draft. Okay,
yeah,
they haven't been able to do that as well with bats.
They've started to, though. They have some young bats.
They
aren't quite ready yet.
They aren't quite ready yet, but it took them a while to figure out what the plan was to identify them bats, because you can't count. Julio was not a draft pick. He was an international free agent signing.
Which, I mean, I put that in the draft pick category. Okay, you went out and got unproven talent.
Well, but that's a bidding. That's a bidding.
I realize.
That's not okay. We're going to select this guy. And I think, honestly, they have gotten a little bit lucky, and that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing that all their young arms that they've drafted in the first couple of rounds have made it, and not have just made it, have been very good.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the starting five for this coming season, outside of Castillo, they're all draft choices. Every single one of them. Bryce Miller will be. Who's the Emerson Hancock is in a rotation instead of Bryce Miller, but either one of those guys is a draft choice. Then you got George Kirby, Brian Wu, Logan Gilbert.
Right.
They're all draft choices.
Well, and the other thing is they got a little lucky when they won the lottery to get Kate Anderson, the left-handed pitcher, who's going to be, if Logan Gilbert walks away, he's the guy who slides.
If they did not have this rotation in place already, Anderson and Ryan Sloan would be in this rotation.
Right.
For a lot of teams.
Right.
But they've got the luxury of getting a little more seasoning out of those guys because they've got unbelievable potential.
And the year they make the playoffs last year and make the run, their starting rotation wasn't as good as it had been the 2 previous years.
Well, what was weird about last year's starting rotation was there were at a depending on what point of the season you were in, you were saying this guy is the ace of the Mariners staff. Starts out as Logan Gilbert. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, George Kirby. Oh my gosh, Brian Wu.
Right.
And even Bryce Miller to a lesser degree, and most of them dealt with injuries and sat out little portions of the season. But they got them through it. And then, and of course, there's Castillo, who's aptly named the Rock, and he was always there, not over the top huge. I mean, he's aging, but he's always there and is always going to deliver
He's
for
an
you.
inning eater.
Yes.
Well, and the other thing, and this is not just the Mariners. This is the modern day game of baseball. You want your starter to give you 6. You don't care if he wins the game. You just keep you in the game. Maybe give your bullpen a lead, and then you turn it over to those guys, and that's how you win games now. You don't hand the guy a ball and say, "Give me 9
It's
innings
changed.
and beat people."
I mean, I've got guys laughing at me, and Rick, you may laugh at me too. Since the middle of last year, to your point of who's the ace, I think Brian Woo's the ace of the staff because he does what Dennis just said. He's a quality start guy. He has more quality starts than any other Mariner starter, and he just gets it done.
It was just a ridiculous run he went on.
Yeah, and I think
6-inning games
I
last
think
year.
he's going to continue to do that this year.
Yeah, he is phenomenal. But I think all of the other guys, all of the above, are capable of being close to that, very close to what he's done there. But if you look at the what's happened over the step back and all the people wanting the Mariners to sign these big money free agents, and Jerry DiPoto was absolutely resistant to doing that. He wasn't going to, even if he had the cash, which I think he could have gone and said, yeah, I really need this guy, and he might have gotten the cash. Maybe, okay, doesn't matter. He wasn't going to do that. He was gonna, they were developing guys, but there were several mistakes along the way.
Well, you can't, if you miss on a guy,
you can't double down on it.
No,
triple
you
down
can't.
on it.
And,
Yes.
and I mean, and that's why people criticized him when they traded Robinson Cano to give up. They had to give up Edwin Diaz.
Yes.
Okay, and Jared Kelenic didn't work, but the trade worked because they got Cano's salary off the books.
Exactly right.
Because if they hadn't done that, I don't think that this team is where they are now because they couldn't have paid him off.
That was the first big move of the step back, was dealing Cano to the Mets and getting them to take the salary. And then you had to give up Diaz, who is still a top 3 reliever in baseball.
But he's not with the Mets anymore because he signed a free agent deal and left. So if he was still a Mariner, he would not be with the Seattle Mariners.
Okay, true. They got Jared Kelenic, that was the prize in that deal for the Mariners, a prize to be cashed in on down the road, and a couple pitchers. I don't even remember their names. It doesn't matter.
Because getting Cano off your salary
Yes.
was the most important thing.
But the Mariners didn't linger too long on Kelenic. They did not. They finally said, okay, this isn't working. This guy he was thought of as organizationally a more valuable guy than Julio, and those two came up together. And
he was top 5 prospect in all of baseball.
Yeah, and they could have unloaded him for a lot more.
Well, another miss was Evans, the first baseman.
Correct.
They signed him. He hadn't even really played much in the bigs. They signed him to that multi-year big money contract.
Yeah.
And
They won a Gold Glove as a first baseman.
Never healthy enough to really be a big contributor.
And they're still paying him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a situation where it wasn't one of those that was a crippling type of deal. And I think that's what you're going to see this team do is pay their young. They did it with Julio. They pay their young stars early enough that they don't have to, give them, now because of the salary structures with the Dodgers and some of the Mets and some of the other teams, they don't have to pay him $40-50 million.
Other misses along the way, particularly at second base. Adam Frazier. Jerry DiPoto said, yeah, this is a guy we've had our eyes on for a long time. Well, it didn't work.
Well, yeah. Colton Wong.
Yeah.
Well, then Colton Wong,
Right.
Yeah, and then Jorge Polanco, who came in and because of injuries, and he went into free agency, and it looked like he wasn't going to be a Mariner. Then DiPoto signs him before last season and took a huge amount of vitriol from the Mariner Nation for that one. And look at what happened.
Yeah, which I think was unfair because Polanco was not healthy the first year prior.
Doesn't matter. The Mariner fans,
Right.
the unenlightened and over entitled Mariner
So the
fans
people who react to your social media.
Yes, exactly. Couldn't stand that move.
But here's what he's done. And this is why it's working. They're all 1-year deals.
Yeah.
So if the guy doesn't work, you're not handcuffed because you gave him a 9-year deal for $40 million a year. and now you can move off of this guy.
Yeah. And then the what has worked is through the draft and the slot money that they spent on players, brought in guys who may have worn a Mariner uniform for a few games, but ended up being capital that have brought in players who are going to be huge even this year. Josh Naylor is going to be huge. Now, they had to make a trade to get him, and then they had to re-sign him, and they did. Brendan Donovan, is he going to be another Adam Frazier or Colton Wong? I don't think so. The guy's going to rake at third base for them this year, but he could play anywhere. But they gave up prospects to get these guys.
But they also didn't give up. I mean, Harry Ford is the one exception, but you just re-signed Cal Raleigh to a new deal. Harry Ford, who was reluctant to play any other position,
yeah,
you had to trade him. Because he was only, if you kept him on the major league roster, he was going to play 40 games a year.
And they got a young reliever for him who is going to fit into that slot at the end of the game. His name's Ferrer.
Jose Ferrer.
Yeah, and he's what is he, 26?
Mm-hmm.
He's got a bright future. Yeah, maybe they gave up a lot, but I don't think there's a guarantee that Harry Ford is going to be a major success in Major League Baseball.
Even if he is, he wouldn't have been in Seattle.
He was blocked.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the other point about that trade, Rick, is the fact that if you look at the Mariners' success the last couple of years, it could have been a whole lot better, but the bullpen gets burnt out, especially Gabe Spire. He was the only lefty. Now you got Ferrer to complement him.
We got Ferrer, Brash, and Munoz to close out a game. Insert any of the three before Munoz, you know?
If you're a Mariner fan and you are upset at any part of the pitching staff, I don't know what you're paying attention to. Okay, this might be top to bottom, because they're going to keep 13 guys, 13 out of 26. This might be their best pitching staff ever.
Very, very likely so.
Top to bottom. I mean, you say Dennis, how can you say that? They had guys, Randy Johnson, Jamie. I mean, they had the year that they had 5 starters.
You're saying 1 through 13,
1 through
not
13.
1 through 4.
No, I'm not saying the starting rotation. I'm saying it in total. They have so many talented arms in the roles that they need to be in. Not only that, they've got others. And I wouldn't be surprised if the trade deadline, the Mariners went out and added another reliever.
Yeah, if there's anything, because of the way they're set now, if there's anything this team needs, it would be another front-end reliever, an innings eater. Bizzardo did a good job of that. But is Casey Legumina the guy who can do that sort of thing? You can upgrade there.
Yeah, but if you have to settle, Casey Legumina is a decent settle.
Right.
But if you're saying we might have to get a better 12th or 13th guy in our pitching
rotation,
pretty good.
Good.
There's other areas that you should probably focus on at this point in time. Now, we don't know what injuries are going to happen, okay? And the way guys throw the ball at 100 miles an hour, somebody is going to get hurt, okay?
It's happened already.
Yeah. Yes. Miller.
Bleak. Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. There are other areas I'm a little more concerned. I'm a little concerned at what's going to happen at shortstop.
Yeah.
If JP can't go.
And looks like he's not going to go to start the season. Right. So we're talking about Leo Rivas, I think, getting the ball most days.
Right.
And his bat's okay. I think he's a good glove. And hurry back, JP, I think is the moral of that story.
But I think that's a better move than shifting Young over to short or putting Emerson in there, because it puts a lot of pressure on a really young guy. Let them develop.
And I don't think you want to go into the major league season depending on like 2 really young guys, Cole Young and Colt Emerson, to deliver for you. Let's keep the veteran element of what's going on in there and get through it and bring JP back. I personal note, he's my favorite Mariner. I love J.P. Crawford.
Who's going to be your favorite Mariner next year when he's not there?
Dennis didn't even let me get there, because that's what he does. Yeah, it's going to break my heart. It's going to crack my heart when they have to cut him loose after this season. And they will cut him loose after this season.
You know what? He's been a good piece of the puzzle. and he's been a great guy off the field too, and
Yeah.
a clubhouse guy.
He's a total clubhouse guy. Yeah, it just and he's even when he's kind of in a little bit of a slump, he always breaks out of it. He always comes up with a big hit. He gets on base so many times when you need him to, and he's at 31. He's still really good.
But now, the clubhouse aspect of it, you've got Josh Naylor now, and that's really good. They don't have Suarez, who was a great clubhouse guy.
Yeah.
But they also have Brendan Donovan, who's quieter but leads by example. He doesn't take an at bat off. He doesn't take anything off. He works hard. I was amazed to see that they're projecting Donovan will only score 64 runs this year.
As a leadoff guy.
Leadoff for the Mariners. I think he's going to be closer to 100 than he will be
with those
closer to
bats behind him.
64. Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
I think he's got huge upside for scoring runs because he gets on base.
Here's my only concern with him. Are we okay with him at third base?
I knew this was coming too, because that's a Dennis.
Barry Hill, baby.
Legitimately
Barry
so.
Hill's working.
You gotta have power at the corners, right? Is that what you're getting at?
If you don't have power, to me there has to be three positions of power. Okay, it doesn't matter where they come from. You got to have three guys who can hit the ball out of the ballpark at any time.
You go.
Well, they have catcher.
Luxury is
a
your catcher.
bonus.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a bonus.
Yeah.
I think Josh Naylor to a certain extent.
More of a contact guy, but Julio's easily
there. I was hoping they would go out and get a thumper to play left field. That was what I was hoping for. And I thought Donovan could be your insurance policy if you don't want to bring Emerson up for whatever reason, like you want to make sure that he doesn't come up too soon. You lose a year of in the roster dancing around.
Yeah.
But that could all change with the new bargaining agreement here coming soon if we have baseball next year.
Yeah, let's don't put it.
Okay. No, I'm just saying. But those are things you have to think of as you put this together.
I'll throw a name out that could fill that void this year because he's never had a chance to play on a somewhat regular basis, and he's penciled in now as a platoon right fielder. Luke Raley. He's got. The guy's got wheels. He can play the outfield. He's got an arm, and he can hit for power.
Yeah.
Will it jump because he gets to play on a somewhat regular basis?
I think he can bring the power, but he's not going to bring overall season numbers up if he's only going up against right-handed pitchers. But I think I'm gonna say the Mariners are one of the teams, and I would say maybe one of the few teams that can get away with not having as many power hitters on the team because of the ballpark they play in. That there are not traditionally not a lot of bombs hitting this ballpark, and that hitting the ball into the power alleys and driving in runs that way is more important than it is when you play in other ballparks.
Which is ironic because they had a guy hit 60 home runs this year.
I know. Well, a freak.
Okay.
They had a freak have a freak season.
Okay.
And Cal Raleigh, let's hope Cal Raleigh can
What's acceptable?
approach 50 this year.
I was gonna give me an over/under number for Raleigh. 45.
45.
If he hits 40 home runs this season, people are going to crucify him.
They shouldn't.
But I think that is a really good number for him. Here's my concern with Cal. I'm worried about him playing as many games behind the plate as he did last year. Now, he's never going to beg out. He's never going to ask for a day off.
No.
Okay, that's not who he is. That's not how he's working. I worry that, are we going to do to him what they did to Felix and overuse him?
Well, and
especially at a position that will take years off your life or your baseball
in that
life
position,
if you overuse
it was the same deal last year, and an easier position. J.P. Crawford played way more games than he should have, but he wouldn't come out of games. He wouldn't sit out a game, and they finally said toward the end of the season, "You're sitting down." I think that's an issue, Dennis. I think Mitch Garver, who is right now the backup catcher, I think maybe can they rely on him to play more games and give Cal more of a break?
Did he not do that last year because he couldn't, or did he not do that last year because Cal was trying to hit 60 home
Cal
runs.
was in fuego, and they needed his bat in the line.
And I think they were afraid to upset the things that were in motion with the way Cal was playing. So
yeah.
And
the
forget
other
about
thing,
his bat, Bud.
Shannon Dreyer made it.
The pitchers want him behind the plate.
Yeah. Shannon Dreyer made a great comment about Garver that I thought is kind of to the point. He was signed to the original contract with the Mariners, and it was a pretty good sized contract.
$12 million.
And didn't get the chance to produce, was hurt a little bit. Now he's on a 1 year deal, and he's got an opportunity. He could have retired. He's made enough money, and now he's just a chance to be a part of this team, do whatever he can do whenever, and that takes a lot of pressure off him. So might create. We hear this during the NCAA basketball tournament all the time: is play freely. It might open up the opportunity for him to play a little more freely.
That, and by the way, you were talking about clubhouse guys. That's a clubhouse guy. That's a total clubhouse guy, and will do whatever it takes, including just sitting on his butt.
Well, the fact that he came back on a 1 year deal,
minor league deal.
Yeah. Well, that's those guys are signed all the time to those, so they don't have to. They can hold the 40-man roster.
But they could have sent him to Tacoma, and I think he might have gone.
Yeah, I don't think he would.
Yeah, I doubt that. So here's one question I have regarding the Mariners: is they've been the hunters the last few years, especially with the Astros. ESPN.com has the Mariners as the number 2 team in Major League Baseball behind the Dodgers to start the season. The Athletic has them as the number 3 behind the Dodgers and the Yankees. How will they perform, and how does Dan Wilson massage things in that clubhouse to handle being the hunted instead of the hunter? Because there's a difference.
Do you think that makes as big a difference in baseball?
Maybe not, because there's so many games.
As it does in other sports.
But I still think there's pressure.
Yeah.
We're all humans, human nature.
I look at this team as a well-constructed team who got close and for whatever reason wasn't able to get the next step. I look at this as the tweaking, because they brought a lot of guys back, the tweaking of this roster to take that next step in their salary. I'm not too worried about that.
What about the karma of Seattle right now with the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Sonic fans like Rick elated that it appears the Sonics are coming back, and then you got a chance for the Mariners to make a run.
Right.
I'll say this right.
We've seen that.
I'm gonna save my prediction for the end. But I think with what Bud is saying, that can they be that team that can be the hunted? I think we saw right at the end of the season. I think we saw a change in the Mariners. They were coming off a series in Kansas City where they played really well, and then they were going to Houston, and they needed to win 2 out of 3, and they swept that series. A switch may have been partially thrown. It was thrown all the way at the end of that. That they became a different group. Now they're gelled in with Josh Naylor, and I think that was a big deal. And guys stepped up and were making plays, and it all kind of galvanized. It's a different team, and a couple things stand out for me. Naylor's presence on the team changed things, and it took a few weeks for him to really become ingrained in what they were doing. But one example is with Cole Young. Josh Naylor at 200 pounds, stealing bases, which he didn't steal the bulk of his bases until he became a Mariner.
Right. Yeah, 19 of them as a Mariner.
With just a couple months to go in the season, But he pulled Cole Young aside and said, dude, you got speed. You got to start stealing some bases. You got to go sometimes when you get on. Cole Young gets on base after this conversation, steals second, and we go, oh, Cole Young just stole second. He looked over at the dugout and pointed at Josh Naylor. That's kind of the team this has become. I hate to pick on Cole Young, but Julio walked up to him in Toronto after Game 7 and said, dude, you gotta work your ass off in the offseason. He said, you gotta hit the weights and you gotta work, man. And Cole Young came back.
Yeah,
buff,
he says he's bigger.
and he had hitting the ball arguably the best. Brendan Donovan and he together were 1 and 2. You put them however you want in hitting the ball during spring training. Maybe Cole Young more for power, which is just amazing. And I feel way better about him at second base starting the season than I did before spring training began. But Julio is the guy. Julio at 24,
25 now.
25 came up and said, dude, you got to work.
Well, 'cause
Okay.
You know that one, because that's who he is, but two, that that didn't happen when he came up.
Yeah.
Maybe there weren't the guys that said that to him. Maybe this is how it's going to be. There's a lineage, there's a leadership quality that maybe they didn't have.
And once Julio starts getting more credit for being a leader, which he is getting now, okay, I think that works on his game as well. I gotta listen to my own advice here. I got to be better disciplined at the plate. I cannot strike out the way I struck out last season. I'm hoping that that's kind of what happens here.
Here's my other only concern. Are we okay with Dominic Canzone and Rob Refsnyder as the DH?
Right now, I am totally because Rob Refsnyder smoked left-handed pitching last year.
Okay.
Smoked it. Okay, wait.
No,
I'm done.
no,
And Don Canzone smoked right-handed pitching
Okay,
last year.
I'm not arguing that these are not the right guys. I'm just saying, are we, because as we've gone through this lineup, are we okay with those two guys in your designated hitter?
See, and I think that's going back to your earlier point about Raleigh not catching as many games. I think it's a great opportunity for Garver to be behind the plate and Raleigh to DH a little more often than he did last year.
Hopefully, yes.
Switch hitting DH with power. Are you kidding me?
But wait a minute. But wait a minute. They had that the Americans had that in the WBC, and he sat on the bench.
He wasn't hitting the ball.
No, he wasn't.
No,
But still.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'm not worried about Cal Raleigh hitting the baseball. I'm not worried about. But to Dennis's as an everyday staple, yes, I'm more than okay right now with those two guys. Now, it could go wrong. Other things have, and Rob Refsnyder has never been a Mariner before,
No.
and he's never had
He's never played 81 games.
T-Mobile as his home field. Yeah. Okay. So let's see what happens. He's a journeyman hitter. I don't think, and he's not a power hitter. I don't think it's going to affect him.
Well, this team can't be perfect. Okay, so there's got to be one area that people are concerned with.
I would be more honestly,
Yeah.
and it's not a huge concern. My one concern offensively in the lineup is left field. And it's not a very big concern because I think Randy Rosarena is a good player who kind of goes in cycles.
Yeah, he's hot and cold.
But we've had left field or at third base or other places, center field.
We haven't talked about yet, and everybody was this time of year a year ago, they were very excited about him, but he got himself caught up in the net in San Francisco is Victor Robles. If he can play the way they were envisioning him playing at the start of last year, he can provide a little bit, not power, but a guy who can get on base and another guy who kind of lights a fire for the team.
I'm less worried about those guys than I am the DH spot. That's the one concern I have with this team, and I'm talking the entire team.
What would you be more comfortable with? A guy who's basically an everyday DH?
No. I'm not a big Dominic Canzone fan.
Okay.
He had a pretty good year last year.
Really good.
That was his first year. That was good.
He hit not way high 200s against right-handed pitchers.
No, I understand. I'm a little. His role was different than it's going to be this year. He's going to be counted on more than he was a year ago.
Yeah. Okay.
How does that pressure how do guys handle that? How does Cole Young handle that? Okay, we expect more out of you. You're just not the guy because Ryan Bliss got hurt at the beginning of the year and we had to bring you up and you played well enough to hold the position, but we need more out of that. That's what I'm a little bit worried about. It's how when you put somebody young in a role and now say, Julio, you got to work your butt off, which is the expression of basically we expect more out of you this year than we did last year. How do they handle those guys? Because I think this pitching staff is going to win a lot of games for this Mariner team if they don't score any runs.
I think, yeah, and I think this pitching staff in this ballpark their ERA is going to be just disgustingly low.
That's another factor that you have to look at. Other than Brian Wu, every Mariner starter, their numbers on the road were a lot higher
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
than they were at home.
Mhm.
They need to narrow that gap and do better on
That's
the road.
good. That's a good call right there.
I agree.
But half of them are at home. So thank
So they're
goodness.
half good.
Here's the thing: is I want to go back to Cal Raleigh. If Cal can hit 240 and hit 40 home runs, I'm really happy with that.
Yeah.
Because he does so many other
Yeah.
things. It's the one position that, in my opinion, if your guy hits 220 and can bang home 15 home runs for you, if he's the quality catcher that Cal is, that's a plus at that position in today's
You ask
game.
any general manager in the big
Right.
leagues, start of the season, write your catcher down for 240 and 40, and that translates to anywhere from 80 to 100 RBI. Would you take that? In a heartbeat, they
Yeah,
would.
they would.
There's
run.
2 or 3 other teams in the league that might be able to attain that.
And if he only hits 40 home runs, people are going to go, what happened to Cal Raleigh this year? The worst thing that happened to Cal is he hit 60 home
Yeah.
runs last year. Okay? Because now everybody expects him to hit 60. He's the new Aaron
Well, hopefully
Judge.
they understand what he did last year has never been done before. So
And may
You know,
not be.
you would
done.
hope.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Now, since you're on the subject, Cal Raleigh is a great example of the renaissance that's happening with the Mariners. Going back to when they drafted him, his agent Scott Boras. His agent at the time was Scott Boras, and Cal's coming out of Florida State. And Scott Boras called up every major league team and said, "Do not take him before the 4th round." He had cut a deal with Atlanta. Scott Boras had for Cal to get $1 million when the Atlanta Braves drafted him, and the Mariners said, "Screw it." Cal is hot right now. He's not going to want to go back to his final year at Florida State. Let's draft him and convince him, okay? And they did, and brought him in for 800 and some thousand instead of $1 million. And he shot up through the organization. And what does he do prior to last season? He dumps Scott Boras, who doesn't sign free agent contracts with, just agree to a new contract with a team without going out on the free agent market, because Cal Raleigh said, "I'm staying with this franchise."
Which is why I don't think Logan Gilbert re-signs, because he's a Boros guy.
Oh no, that's a good call, Dennis. But maybe the same thing happens. I don't know. And if Logan Gilbert doesn't re-sign, we've been over that.
Right.
They're covered.
Right.
I think
yes.
we've talked about Rowley enough, but I want to throw out one more point. He became a leader on this team because they were young and leaderless. But what he did that impressed me as a young guy, he went to the front office and said, "You got to step up," because
Yes.
everybody was so upset, fans, players, when they didn't do things to help him at the trade deadline. And for him to have the guts to do that as a younger guy, to go and put pressure on them, to me, 60 home runs is awesome. But for him to be able to do that, and for them to respect him enough to listen to that, and DePoto and Hollander wanted to spend more money all the time, but couldn't get ownership to do it. That seemed to help push ownership in the right direction.
Yeah. Well, and once again, then he backed that up, Bud, by doing what I just said, firing his agent and taking less money than he would have got much less than he would have got on the free agent market to stay with this franchise. It's a renaissance. And now Josh Naylor comes to the Mariners, and I don't know if he really hit the free agent market this offseason, but would there have been a bigger free agent? Maybe one or two. They got a top 2, I think, free agent.
Well, Bregman is
Okay, okay.
which is kind of the guy who I was hoping they would sign to play third base.
I would have loved to have seen that, though, just to see the fans' reaction to Bregman.
Yeah,
how long would that have taken for him to win over the fans?
I would have struggled. I would have struggled with that, Dennis. I would have found a way to cheer for the guy. What if the Mariners brought Alex Rodriguez back as a manager or something? I'm going to have a problem with that.
At second and Bregman at third.
You're going to have less of a problem with Bregman
Yeah.
than you are A-Rod.
But unfortunately, Bregman went to the Houston Astros.
Well, I'm waiting to hear your prediction, Rick.
Okay, which one? Houston's very viable with Bregman and Altuve back together.
You know who I think is a surprise of the West and might finish above Houston?
Now, you're gonna say the A's?
The Sacramento A's, baby. If they can get anybody out, they can hit the ball. They've got a lot of hitters.
I love that Wilson kid.
Now, he's going to digress a little bit, but I think Soderstrom is and Kurtz is a big time hitter. Yeah. And then they got Butler and blanking on Rooker. I mean, they've got guys that can hit the ball.
Yeah, and
I don't know if they can get anybody.
I don't know if they can get anybody, but in that bandbox, they might win 20-18.
Yeah.
True. The poor Angels have they completely wasted their
Artie Moreno's money.
They completely wasted their whole window with the best player in baseball.
Yeah.
In Trout. I mean, and he's still going to be a really good player this year.
How about Shohei Ohtani?
And they had Shohei Ohtani, and they had the other big free agent,
Rendon.
Former Rendon.
The former Ranger who had the drug problems.
That's too long ago.
Okay.
That kid never stayed.
Rendon's the guy who won the World Series at third base.
Hamilton
with Washington.
Oh, Josh Hamilton, yeah, and of course Pujols. I mean, they had all these guys, and
there's a team. You can throw the Cleveland Browns into that, and there are some others out there, other franchises. They're so dysfunctional because of the ownership group.
Yeah,
that it doesn't work.
They had Jerry DiPoto pulling their strings, and he didn't get along with Mike Scioscia, and Artie Moreno chose the wrong guy.
Right, he did. He did.
They had Jerry DiPoto. Okay, so the Angels are I think they're going to be okay, but they're an afterthought. No,
I don't think they're either.
My prediction, guys, this is the year to go to a World Series. If the Mariners don't go to the World Series, and I think winning it's another thing because of the Dodgers. Okay, but if the Mariners don't go to the World Series, it's a failure. Injury can play a huge part, but if a healthy Mariner team doesn't make it to the World Series,
if the Mariners can stay healthy in the starting rotation, they will win the World Series.
Dennis said that.
That's because he doesn't like the Dodgers. Neither do I.
Well, I don't believe the Dodgers are good for baseball.
No, I would agree.
No,
the health of the sport of baseball.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily pounding on the desk for salary cap. I think it would help some franchises, but then our ownership of those some franchises actually going to spend the money that they need to. If they're going to put a salary cap in, they need to put a floor in. But I think if we have a fight over a salary cap, we don't have baseball next year.
I don't think there's going to be baseball next year, unfortunately. Yeah. And because baseball has this track record, they have not gone on strike a ton or locked players out a ton, but every time they've done it, it's been at an inopportune time. When we were born and started to become sports fans, baseball was our national pastime.
Mm-hmm.
The NFL was great. The NBA was in the dregs. College sports were nowhere near what they are now. But baseball's it's fallen below NASCAR. Baseball's got and they've got some momentum right now, but they're going to shoot themselves in the foot by locking players out or going on strike and eliminating, spring training for sure doesn't happen next year, and probably the start of the season could wipe out most of the season, if not all of it. And that's horrible for baseball.
Wouldn't that be wild if the Mariners get to the World Series, don't win it? I mean, they continue to take the step.
Yeah, because windows close, baby.
And then the window closes, not because they ran out of money, they ran out of players, they ran out of contracts. The game ran out.
Right. I think the game, the unfortunate thing is that, the game is really good right now. And that's the
pitch clock
helped immensely.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that funny? And to hear Dennis say that warms my heart because Dennis is a what I call a baseball curmudgeon, and that's not a derogatory term.
I love the pitch clock.
Yeah. As soon as the pitch clock came in, everybody was like, "Oh, this is going to happen. This is going to happen." 3 weeks in, the pitch clock was never mentioned again.
And it's very rare to see a violation of it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I remember on a previous sports talk show having a huge argument with Dennis and somebody called the Wingman about outlawing the shift. The infield shift in baseball. And they're like, you can't tell an infielder where he can stand. Well, they did.
Yep.
Okay. And the shift, I mean, it's just shifted over a little bit. Okay. But it's made a huge difference in the game.
I have a problem. I still have a problem with that. Because if I want to put all my guys over on that side of the field, then
Learn to hit it the other way.
Learn to hit it the other
Yeah.
way. Okay.
No, learn to hit it the other way when seems like every pitcher in baseball can throw in the 90s and can bust you inside, gets ahead in the count,
Right.
and you're not going to hit it the other way. It's not going to. The best hitters in the game, there are maybe 6 guys who can do that.
Yeah.
Okay. It's nearly impossible, Bud.
I have more of a problem, and I understand this. I have a problem with the ghost runner.
Yeah. I mean, I don't
The
like
extra
it.
innings.
Yeah.
I don't like it, but it's good for baseball because it speeds up the games.
But this is the
In
same
the
problem I have in hockey with the overtime rules of 3-on-3.
3-on-3.
Okay, because we decide who's the best team in hockey by playing overtime. Then we get to the playoffs, we play it a different way.
I understand that. I
Same with
like
baseball.
that though because it creates an opportunity. It opens up the rink to score. It's like the thing that still irritates me, and Rick's more of a soccer guy than any of us, but with the World Cup coming to Seattle, they still decide World Cup games on a shootout? Really?
Yeah.
They got to
that's
figure
it.
out a different way to
yeah.
do that.
With the ghost runner, I mean, you talk about the 3-on-3 in hockey opens things up. The added runner at second base in extra innings adds incredible strategy.
Oh, it does. Yeah,
late in a baseball game. So while I agree, I don't agree, I see why you guys might not like that and especially from a purist standpoint, don't like it. My answer is what I told a lot of people who said it's just the stupidest thing ever. I said, okay, well, when it hits extra innings, you turn the game off. I'm going to keep watching it, and I'm going to see some really exciting baseball.
Yeah.
But my problem with that is it equalizes pitching staffs. If you got a great pitching staff and the other team doesn't have a great pitching staff, you've made their pitching staff better
Okay.
and mine worse because you put a guy at second base who if I've got a great pitching staff, would have never got there.
Agreed, but then I'll apply the same argument as we'll just hit it the other way argument for the infield shift. Just win the game earlier with your great pitching staff. Don't let it get to extra innings.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, but
I think they've done it because they need to modernize the game because it's not the same game. It was the same game from when we were kids, but people's perceptions have changed. And USA Today is one of the things that changed that. You know, you don't have long depth articles anymore.
Right.
You have little synopsises. That's our society now. We got to have everything instantaneously and quickly. And baseball had to change to adapt, or it was going to be a dinosaur.
I call it evolving because the talent is evolving. Talent has evolved, and baseball has to evolve with the talent level.
the problem it wasn't the only problem was games were taking too long. End of discussion.
Correct.
Okay. You couldn't have a 3.5-hour game. People weren't willing to sit in the park at a 7:00 start to 10:30. How many teams now play at 6 or 6:30? I mean, the Spokane Chiefs moved their time of hockey on a Saturday night.
I used to.
They play at 6 on a Saturday night.
Even after I retired, I would, when the games were going longer, I would sit in my basement when I had one, and I'd watch the game, and inevitably, I would wake up at 11 and say, "What happened?"
Mm-hmm.
And now I can make it through a game, guys. Most games I can make it through the game.
Where it's really helped is minor league baseball.
Yeah.
The pitch clock.
Yeah.
No more 4-hour games
Yeah.
at Spokane Indians.
No, it's amazing.
They start at 6:30. You rarely are at the park at 9:00 anymore.
Yeah. It's true. Now this year we got the ABS, the automated balls and strikes, and Dennis has given me the I don't like that look.
Cal Raleigh's going to challenge.
Here's my concern. I've seen how long it takes to challenge things in college basketball this year.
Yeah.
There needs to be a time clock.
Have you seen how
It's quick,
have you
though.
seen in the in Cactus League how long it takes?
Yeah.
It takes like that.
Yeah.
Did you hear the other day?
And how many did we get?
You get one and you
One
keep
per
it.
at
You
bat?
keep it. No, you what is it? One Or no, you get.
I thought you got two.
You get two.
Yeah.
2 per game.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 per game, and you don't lose it if you're right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there's a cap on how many. You can't win 5 in a row. And I don't know. But I was cracking up.
It's gonna make the umpires better. Go ahead.
Cactus League game. It was Cleveland and maybe the Giants. And the umpire's mic was hot and he didn't realize it. And
Oh, jeez.
he called it a strike and they challenged it. And he says, "Oh, I'm praying that was a strike." I thought that was perfect.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't take too long.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm okay with getting things right. The problem I have now is it takes.
Oh, college basketball
long.
right now, everything's reviewed, and we see it better at home
Right.
than the officials see it on that monitor courtside, and they're afraid they're not going to advance to the next round of the tournament, so they can't be afraid. They can't get it wrong, so they're going to err on the side of caution.
We had a replay in football of a game I was doing on the radio this year that went 8.5 minutes.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
I remember that play.
San Jose State.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well. Well, have we done it?
Well, no, we got how many games they winning?
Okay.
I got 92.
I'm gonna go more than that. I'm gonna go like 96 wins.
Okay.
I was locked on to 95.
Okay.
There you go.
I think we're all in the same.
Yeah.
You remember the one year we did on the Patchin Lukens radio show, and I remember, I think the number was 91, and I nailed it.
Well,
When-
Yeah, thank
Mariner
you, thank
fans
you.
are hoping you nail us again this year. Well, Dave Nichols might or might not be back the next time we're here.
Yeah. Well, we hope we're asked back.
Well, I think we'll be asked back.
Okay.
It's fun. We've had a good time.
Yeah, this is fun.
Yeah, I'm sorry we didn't get to do the one on the NCAA tournament we were going to do. That was going to be fun. I was going to pick High Point to win a game.
Somebody's team got sent.
Somebody's team got involved.
Went to the tournament.
Good for you.
Yeah,
Congratulations for
that
you.
was fun.
Have you ever done an NCAA tournament game?
Yeah, yeah. That's a story for another time.
All right.
Thank you for joining us.
It was fun.
All right. Next time.